Good morning, friends, and welcome back to Trans India. Real people, real emotions. Logistics is nothing but pure magic. Can you imagine how goods reach from one corner of the country to another, or even one part of the globe to another? Let's take a small example. I recently ordered a grass cutting thread from a site in the USA. A small packet which started its journey from the US was shipped to Dubai and eventually came at my doorstep in Delhi in 10 days. But then this is the magic. India is actually more complicated to work, and the magic of road transport comes with many surprises. Just like a magician pulls out things from his hat, we see officials of all kinds and ranks showing up on the road to collect a fee that road transport has to pay for performing the magic of getting goods to your household. But the road transport has evolved over the years, and a lot of things have happened that have actually helped ease the pain of the road transport industry. But still, until a few years ago, one of the challenges for the industry was getting youngsters to join their family business. It was said that if a person could do nothing better in life, he could become a truck driver. And if a child could not study well, he had no option but to join his father's transport business. We must admit one thing though, that road transport is very welcoming. It opens its arms to everyone. Anyways, friends, this week we bring to you a very exciting as well as a very insightful interview with a youngster who never ceases to surprise you. He's a third generation transporter whose father has been a very popular managing committee member of Bombay Goods Transport Association, having secured the highest number of votes for many years on the trot. His name was enough to get him the votes. However, we never anticipated that this young transporter would ever join any transport association, especially considering the politics and power games, some of the attributes that should never be associated to any trade organization. But as I told you, this kid surprises us. And not only did this young transporter get into the murky waters, he has also managed to filter the pond to a large extent. But what's more impressive, that he has made a mark for him on the national level as well, being a prominent office bearer of All India Transporters Welfare Association. So friends, we will be interacting today with Mr. Abhishek Gupta, the Managing Director of Prakash Parcel Services Limited, who is currently the General Secretary of All India Transporters Welfare Association and Managing Committee member of Bombay Goods Transport Association. Coming up after this very short break, our exclusive interview with Abhishek Gupta, which also includes his SWOT analysis on startups in the logistics space. Stay tuned, you are watching Trans India, real people, real emotions.
महिंद्रा ये गारंटी देते हैं कि उनका ब्लेजो एक्स सबसे ज्यादा माइलेज देता है, वरना कर दीजिए ट्रक वापस।
सॉरी अजय, महिंद्रा फ्यूरियो है। एक्शन!
महिंद्रा गारंटी देते हैं कि उनका फ्यूरियो सबसे ज्यादा माइलेज देता है, नहीं तो
एक्चुअली जयो, महिंद्रा जयो है, थोड़ा चेंज है। एंड एक्शन!
महिंद्रा ये गारंटी देते हैं कि उनका जयो सबसे। चल क्या रहा है यहाँ पे?
मैम, ये चारों ट्रक ज्यादा माइलेज देते हैं, चारों।
तो ऐसा बोलो ना, ब्लेजो एक्स, फ्यूरियो, फ्यूरियो 7 और जयो। महिंद्रा के ये सभी ट्रक्स देते हैं सबसे ज्यादा माइलेज की गारंटी, नहीं तो कर दीजिए इन्हें वापस। महिंद्रा, देश की सबसे ज्यादा माइलेज देने वाली ट्रक रेंज।
Welcome back, viewers, to Trans India, real people, real emotions. And we are going to be talking to the smart, stylish, suave young transporter Abhishek Gupta. Incidentally, not many would attribute these qualities to a transporter, but then here's what's changing silently in the transport industry. So Abhishek, to start with, how did you get into the transport industry besides the fact that your dad had a transport company?
So I think more like by chance, family business and only son. So right after probably school, I started coming in for a couple of hours, understanding business, trying to get onto different things. And that's how I slowly got into it. Not realizing that I'm going to be in it for the long, but yeah, that's how I got into it.
So transport industry was not your first choice of business, more given that it was a family business you happened to be in. Also, given a choice, would you have joined some other industry?
Yeah, exactly on those lines. I mean, now in hindsight, when I think, then I think that I was probably cut out to do this. But yeah, I could have looked at a lot of other things had I thought of it.
So, what was your first reaction on joining the transport business, and how much have things changed since you joined the industry?
So it's been a long journey. I think a little over 20 years ago is when I started coming into the office, and the business then was very different. I think it was the initial period of the competition era, if I would call it so, rather from the real not a monopolistic era, but a era where people were making a lot of money. Is after that we came in, it seems like the profitability had started going down. So anything you did would always be considered as a cost, and whether you should do this, not do this. And so it was a challenge, I think, initially to adopt a lot of things when I got into the business. But it's evolved a lot over the last couple of years.
What were the challenges that you came across in the initial days?
I think the challenges earlier, so initially I used to look into the tanker business. So there's a lot of driver related interaction, driver related behaviors. How do you incentivize them? How do you improve your efficiency? So you would come with new ideas which would be completely thrown out of the window, saying कि ये हो नहीं सकता है, ऐसा possible ही नहीं है. Tracking a vehicle and all those kind of things were never even spoken about because it was very early that time. So adopting those things were a big challenge. Changing the systems, or rather bringing in systems with a new perspective, was a big challenge. And I think that's been the major thing that I saw when I got in.
Abhishek, 2 decades down the line, what are the significant changes that you see which have helped ease the business?
So there are a couple of factors. I think one of the major changes is, of course, your financial infrastructure. You had a lot of activity of cash, a lot of activity of fund transfers, check issuing. I think all that in the last 3 to 5 years has probably come down to a very, very significant level, come down by a very significant level. Technology has really helped in a lot of ways to improvise our operations, our efficiency, the vehicle capacity, vehicle quality, the benefits that the vehicle manufacturers have been able to provide fleet owners has been a very big change. And I think the customer mindset has also changed a lot, right? Today, earlier the customers would look at you only as a vendor or only as a cost center. Today, customers also look at you as a partner. They look at you as someone who adds value to their business. So I think that has been the major changes.
Abhishek, while many customers have now started taking transporters as their channel partners of sorts, the profitability is still on the decline, and passing on any hike in the operating cost to the customer is still a huge challenge, even though you may be a partner, or so to say, but the bottom line counts for everyone. How do you get across this barrier?
So it's not just for transport. Today costs are increasing across various industries. Transport, of course, because it's diesel and petrol, one realizes the direct impact. I think the best way to do that, or what we try to do internally, is that our relationship with our customers is very, very close. Like I said, we don't work just as vendors. We try to work more as partners. We're able to explain to them the reasoning. And if you look at our cost versus their value of material that we carry, I think we're just about 2.5%, 3%, somewhere maybe 4% on the higher side of their entire cost of material. So on that 2-3%, if you're asking for a 5% or 7%, unless you're not doing something right, they're not going to give it to you. So if you're serving them well, you're taking care of the material, you're following their SOPs, you're ensuring safety of their goods, I think it's not an issue in that case. But definitely, I know from where you're coming that it's the typical issue in the sector that people say cost pass karna mushkil hai. It definitely is in case of certain segments of the business, where the volumes are high or where the products are such where customers can't afford to increase cost. And there it's more about your survival. Since you have a fleet dedicated to that customer, you have to continue working, and there definitely margins are shrinking.
Abhishek, over the years, many companies have moved beyond, moving goods from point A to point B. They are providing various kinds of value additions. Do you think that provides a competitive edge and that is the way forward?
So value addition in transportation definitely does add more revenue and more than revenue. I think it's more about the stickiness of the customer. Today, the customers are not going to change you only for the price. So the only differentiator is not price. So those value additions or those solutions that you provide, the customized solutions that you provide, really add that value which customers want today. And they don't want to work with a typical transporter, who says, "Gaadi pahunch rahi hai ji, gaadi nikal gayi hai ji." Those kind of attitudes we're long past all that.
How dominant has IT been in easing the operations and at the same time improving efficiency?
Girish, I think IT, if I would, break it up into two parts, IT has two roles in the transport sector. Earlier, IT only probably meant GPS. कि मेरे गाड़ी में GPS है तो मैं technology यूज़ कर रहा हूँ. But over the last couple of years, there are two segments. One is internal and one is external. So external is those that face your client. So in that, there are so many things that have come up which never existed in the past. GPS, of course, still exists, but you have solutions like SIM tracking. So for those transporters who hire trucks, from the market, they had no way of providing tracking to their customers, or they would always rely on calling the driver and knowing where he is. But today you have solutions like SIM tracking or like portable trackers, which you can install on a market vehicle, track it, rather than asking the driver, check it yourself, give an informed information to your customer. So that's on the external side that's changed. Various other technologies on the external side in terms of, your interaction with the customer, like mobile apps and all these things have become so easy to build as compared to back in the day where, a customer gets immediate information. Soft copy of PODs is something which customers started accepting, which earlier never used to work. So technology has helped in that on the external side. On the internal side, it's helped a lot in your processes. So back in the day, I remember probably early 2000, we moved from a lot of manual operations to an ERP. The ERP was, of course, software based, and data packets used to be exchanged. Today, you're working on a cloud atmosphere where everything is, integrated. It's live. Real-time information is coming. So in the internal, your processes have changed so much. If a material is booked today from, say, Jammu to Chennai, the Chennai guy knows instantly that this material is booked for him. He can give information to the client real-time basis. You can improve your planning. Also, things like API integration have now started, which a lot of transporters are adopting. And that is really reducing the manual work. So even on the digital side, your work is getting reduced. Information is coming. For example, if I give an example, a lot of transporters are adopting this, is that you don't need to enter your LR in your ERP. The information comes from an e-waybill, because today the e-waybill has all the fields that you need for LR. So a lot of transporters have developed this and are able to do this, which is just drastically reducing their manual work which the people have to do. And similarly, more innovation is coming, more tech adoption is coming, and that's how your cost will reduce, right? Your price differentiation, your price may stay the same, but your bottom lines will increase.
Abhishek, there was a time, probably a decade ago, when youngsters were hesitant to join the transport business. How is the scenario now, and has the evolution of the term logistics been an enabler?
So, if you look at transporters per se, you'll still find that little bit of hesitance from the next generation to come in. But when you look at the startup logistics space, I've happened to visit a couple of them, personally. I think the average age in their office is 30, right? So, which is a huge change as compared to our traditional transport offices. So, there is a change happening. It's about how quickly transporters adopt and move on to, creating such kind of environments at their workplace to be able to attract talent, younger talent. And there is talent coming in. It need not be the owners, but there is talent coming in.
Talking of startups, many seniors and veterans in the transport industry still see startups as a threat, a huge threat in fact. What's your take on this?
Startups basically are of multi-types today in the logistics segment. Logistics is the buzzword, I think, for the startup ecosystem. They all feel that logistics is where you can do so much. Just because it's not digitized, it's not technology driven, so there's so much they can do. there are various people who are in the startup logistics space. Some definitely are threats from day one. Some of them are here to help transporters. Some of them probably over the journey decide to change and move on to becoming, competitors. So as a transporter, you probably need to analyze and see which of them can add value to your business. Whether you use them or don't use them, it doesn't matter to their life, because they are going to, continue their journey, and there's dime a dozen transporters who will adopt them. If you're not adopting them, you might be feeling that, I'm not exposing myself to technology and, the risk of probably getting threatened in the future. But I think it's something which transporters need to accept and use definitely judiciously to ensure that you don't affect your business, but in a way that it helps your business or sort of catalysts your business to grow.
Abhishek, you have studied startups in depth, very closely in fact, and you have come up with a SWOT analysis. Can you share the SWOT analysis with us?
See, I think the biggest strength for startups in the logistics industry, I think, is their money bags. They're funded by some of the largest names in the world for the simple reason that these funds see India's logistics industry as a very, very big opportunity. So that's their strength, the money support. In terms of attracting talent is a very, very big strength that they have, because they're able to pay well, because they're able to get in a lot of young talent, new talent into the sector is one of their big strengths. Technology. So, of course, technology is the buzzword, and startups, I think, have really changed the game when it comes to technology. So they've been able to bring revolutionary technology to the Indian logistics ecosystem, which no conventional transport company would ever have thought of or have ever adopted at this pace that they've been able to do it because of them coming in. So that's, I think, the major strengths. Weaknesses, I think, are the lack of ground knowledge, the lack of collaboration that these guys do. They feel that we have to compete or we have to eat the market. I think that's their biggest weakness, that in their hunger to grow, they are competing with a lot of members in the fraternity, reducing prices, working at losses. The very, very classic thing that I always tell when it comes to startups is that everyone says we are Uber for trucks. I don't think an Uber for trucks exists, because Uber created a different strata of demand and a different strata of supply. Today, you and me who have cars still use an Uber, right? Which we would never use a general taxi otherwise. It's created a new supply because people left their jobs, low-paying jobs, and bought cars on EMIs and started becoming drivers. So it's become a complete new strata. But today, in Uber for trucks, if you put 500 trucks and say I'm a startup with trucks, any big MNC, any big FMCG is not going to dispatch one extra truck just because you've come. So demand always will remain the same. So you're going to compete for the same demand. And on the supply side, as much as you increase supply, your price is going to go down. So somewhere this Uber for trucks is that weakness that they feel we're going to change the game by doing something revolutionary. Definitely technology is a revolution, but not everything works with that. Opportunities, I think, for transport companies, there are huge opportunities. I think the biggest opportunity is to learn, to see what these guys are doing, adopt things which you don't do in your business, or adopt technology companies as your vendors, as your partners, to be able to scale your business in the right way. That's something which transport companies, is an opportunity for transport companies with startups. Threats, definitely there is always a threat of them becoming a transporter. But I don't think the real startup tech companies who want to scale up and who want to be the next unicorn are going to look at being a transporter. They're going to look at a technology company. And if they partner with transport companies, if they provide solutions to transport companies, I think that's where there's a lot of space and a lot of opportunity for startups.
So Abhishek, after all this, how do you see the future of these startups? Are they here to stay, or they will be like, those fly-by-night operators, make money, lose money, and then just go away?
So like I said, there are lots of startup tech companies in logistics that have come. Many of them have come and gone. Many of them have stayed. They keep innovating. They keep changing their, approach, their product offering to survive. because from the outside, the transport industry or the logistics industry looks very rosy to a startup. But when they enter this space, eventually you need to make money. And sadly, none of them are making money. So that's the challenge which they are now facing, that they are not able to raise money unless they're able to make money. So I think this next couple of years will tell us how much these startups will survive. And the ones which are still here have to face that challenge.
Coming to associations, Abhishek, though I never thought you would be part of any transport association, considering the working scenario that used to be a thing of the past now. You've been in ITWA for about 8 years and BGTA for a longer time. What has motivated you to work in these associations, especially since many of them are considered to be politically motivated or a namesake organization?
As an outsider, I think I was always of the opinion that the association is not doing anything, or the association is not taking up matters, or association is not addressing issues. And given the opportunity, which I was given at one point, I entered into one of the associations, the regional ones. That's the Bombay Goods Transport Association. And of course, it was very early for me to really play an important role, but I tried to understand the dynamics. Like you correctly mentioned, politics is everywhere. But if you leave that noise aside, eventually the association's goal is to do something for their stakeholders, their members, employees, drivers, the entire community, to ensure that they all thrive. So I think that was the thing that drove me to continue being a part of it.
Talking of BGTA first, what would you count as the significant achievements in the last 7-8 years?
I think at BGTA we've been able to do activities on a yearly basis which have attracted a lot of the youngsters to come together. We were part of the website and knowledge enhancement committee when it started, and that's when this thing started, and we were able to keep that going with certain activities which got together youngsters and future transporters to at least interact on maybe not association related activities, but on social activities or on sports, etc. Then that's one very interesting thing that we've been able to do, which is unique to BGTA. We've been able to make representations on various subjects in the government of within Maharashtra and Mumbai to take care of transporter related issues out here through different committees that are part of BGTA.
Well friends, they say all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy. But what if the fun has an undertone of work to it? An attempt to bring minds together, to play together on the field and off the field. We'll know more about how the BGTA Premier League has brought the young minds in the industry together. Not just to think together, but to work together as well. Continuing our interaction with Abhishek Gupta after this very short break. Don't go anywhere. You are watching Trans India, real people, real emotions.
महिंद्रा ये गारंटी देते हैं कि उनका ब्लेजो एक्स सबसे ज्यादा माइलेज देता है, वरना कर दीजिए ट्रक वापस।
सॉरी अजय, महिंद्रा फ्यूरियो है। एक्शन!
महिंद्रा गारंटी देते हैं कि उनका फ्यूरियो सबसे ज्यादा माइलेज देता है, नहीं तो
एक्चुअली जयो, महिंद्रा जयो है, थोड़ा चेंज है। एंड एक्शन!
महिंद्रा ये गारंटी देते हैं कि उनका जियो सबसे चल क्या रहा है यहाँ पे?
मैम, ये चारों ट्रक ज्यादा माइलेज देते हैं, चारों।
तो ऐसा बोलो ना, ब्लेजो एक्स, फ्यूरियो, फ्यूरियो 7 और जयो। महिंद्रा के ये सभी ट्रक्स देते हैं सबसे ज्यादा माइलेज की गारंटी, नहीं तो कर दीजिए इन्हें वापस। महिंद्रा, देश की सबसे ज्यादा माइलेज देने वाली ट्रक रेंज।
Welcome back viewers, you are watching Trans India, real people, real emotions, and we are in conversation with Abhishek Gupta. Abhishek, the BGTA Premier League has been a significant achievement and you are one of the persons who crafted this idea. What was the thought process behind starting a cricket tournament within a transport association?
So it was actually a thought that came up when we discuss about unity and we discuss about rather lack of unity in the sector. I think the first reason for that is that people don't meet, right? People are all working in silos in their businesses. They have so much of action within their own company that they don't have the time to come out and meet other people from the industry. So until you don't meet people in the industry, how can you unite? So I think that was the single point agenda, that let's get the transporters together. Let's get the transporters who would mean to the industry going forward, right? Our fathers, our grandfathers have been there, done that. But today, as the younger generation or the future generations, unless they don't meet and they don't know each other, how are they going to unite? So I think that was the single point agenda, and that's how we started and we conceived the BGTA Premier League. And yeah, we've done 4 seasons, and I think we had about 120 transporters, family members play and engage on a whole day of activities, which really increases the bonding. They had practice sessions before. They played under a banner of another transport company. Today for an owner of a company to be playing on some other of a competitor's company wearing his jersey, one would think this is, it's not possible. But we've done that, and because there is no mindset as competition there. You're a team who's playing. And that's, I think, been a really good change we've seen. And there's a lot of, and it's a natural thing, right? Today, if transporters come together, business ki baat to hoegi. You'll have friendships forming, you'll have partnerships forming, you'll have associations forming. So people have benefited from this. And that's what today you join any networking forum. The whole world today joins networking forums. The objective is to do business. Today within our association, what can we do? And I think we've done fairly well on it.
So do you intend to take this tournament beyond BGTA?
Definitely. That's on the cards. You'll see something coming soon.
Abhishek, moving from a regional association to All India Transporters Welfare Association, you've been very active in this national body as well. How did this transition happen?
I think ATWA happened because of my involvement with GST within Mumbai. I was like the spokesperson for BGTA on GST, and I was quite vocal on the issues which the industry was facing. I kept representing them to the Maharashtra state level. But you realize that GST is not a state subject, it's a central subject or a council subject. So your voice at the state level is limited. So somewhere the opportunity came for me to join ATWA, and that's how I got involved, and I was taken in as a joint secretary there. And I continued the subjects I was taking here up to the center where it really mattered. And that's how it's been going on.
What are the current issues related to GST, and what are the demands of the transport industry now?
See, GST, if you look at it historically from the last 4 years or 5 years since it's implemented, there have been over 2,000 or 3,000, I believe, changes that have happened. So the government has also realized that they came out with a law which probably wasn't the best at its first cut. So they had to evolve it. So similarly for transport sector, there were various issues which had been raised initially, but somewhere kept going on the back burner because one, transporters aren't the taxpayers. Transporters are just a part of the transaction between the buyer and seller. So our voice somewhere was not very loud enough, or were not given that much of weightage. So we've been able to change that over time. In terms of the major issues, if I tell you, I think one of it is that the GST rate is of course very high. 28% GST rate is considered for luxury or sin goods. We still are in that bracket for trucks. A lot of compliance related issues still continue within the GST framework. For example, if a truck owner buys a truck, he's paying 28% GST. He doesn't take any input tax credit. He uses the truck for maybe a span of 8-10 years. When he goes to sell the truck, he's expected to pay GST on the sale as well. So in a way, it's double taxation. But somehow this doesn't fit right in the government, in the GST framework, and it's still lingering. E-way bill is a very large subject which has a lot of downfalls or other pitfalls today for the transport sector. So that's still something which we're fighting for. In terms of GST, there are also issues related to return filing. So like I said, compliance related issues.
Abhishek, there has been a lot of noise to bring petroleum products under GST. What are your thoughts on the same, and how do you think that would impact the transport industry?
So this is a point that we are always debating, and it always sounds nice that if fuel comes under GST, the fuel prices will come down. I think somewhere we have to understand that the government is also running a large organization, and a lot of their inflow comes from the revenue of fuel, taxation on fuel. So if they reduce the taxation there, they definitely will increase it somewhere else. One. Secondly, just because it comes under GST does not mean that they're going to give you input tax credit, ITC. They definitely would look at reducing that so that their outflow doesn't get affected and they continue to get that ITC. So I think these challenges are there in the government side. That's why how much ever they want to bring under GST, they're failing to do that. And plus, of course, getting consensus of states, because it's a state as well as a center revenue. So the state buy-in is very important for it.
Abhishek, the transport industry has been given the option to opt for either FCM or RCM, and now another option has been introduced as well. Do you feel that there is a need for uniformity for the industry to thrive together, grow together?
RCM is the real way which was continuing pre-GST during service tax as well. And the reason for RCM was because majority of our cost is fuel. The asset cost is not our major cost. And this was fought for during the service tax era. But somewhere, I think when GST came in, is when everyone started hearing the word ITC. And they kept thinking, why don't we get ITC when everybody gets ITC? So a section of the industry decided that we should pitch and try and get the input tax credit ourselves. And now, of course, if an industry goes to the government and says, we want to pay taxes or we want to pay GST and we want to collect GST, we want the input tax credit, the government is not someone who's going to deny it. So they have found a way out for it and created a 12% FCM model, which has definitely created an imbalance because people who have ITC are now passing that ITC as a discount or as a cost reduction. So the end all story is that the purpose was not that. The purpose that one went to get ITC was that they'll benefit from it. But eventually in the competition, you're passing it on. So I'm not sure in overall how much is really going to benefit the transporters. Compliance is a huge thing and I'm hoping that everyone is doing the compliance well.
So would a uniform tax structure be helpful?
Of course, uniform tax structure definitely suits the industry given the different types of stakeholders, fleet owners, small fleet owners, transporters. So the uniform structure would have been much better.
Abhishek, you have been in associations for quite some time, and one of the issues we see is lack of unity or a collective thought process on any subject. How much is this impacting the industry on the whole?
So like I said, Girish, unless people don't meet, okay, you can't simply say everyone should stand up when there's a problem. You need to have that sort of bonding, you need to have that sort of interaction, initiatives, activities constantly happening year round where transporters are coming together on different subjects so that when there is a subject which is of their benefit or a subject which is affecting their business, they can all stand up together. So that's, I think, something which is missing across the industry. So there are platforms like associations, but generally, like you see, people are wary of being part of associations. They feel it's a time-consuming activity. 100%, it is time-consuming. There is a certain amount of time you should devote to it. But when there is an initiative done by an association, people need to participate on it. If today you join a FICCI or a CII, you see the kind of initiatives they take. And the reason they are where they are is because there is active involvement of the members. Any association is an association of the people, by the people and for the people, right? So that's how associations for transport are as well. And there are associations who are doing tremendous work in other sectors, in other industries. I'm hopeful that someday even transport associations will be able to reach that, where you are included in discussions which matter not just for your trade, but even for the nation in general.
Abhishek, why is it that transport associations haven't been able to make it to the likes of a CII or a FICCI, who enjoy a certain privilege with the government? What is lacking on the part of the transport industry or transport associations, and do we need to strengthen our secretariat?
I don't think it's a secretariat. I think it's more about what do we approach the government for? Do we keep going to the government with a begging bowl? Do we keep going to them asking them, humko ye chahiye, wo chahiye? Or is it that we're going to them to discuss solutions to larger problems? rather than to our petty problems. So I think that mindset is what can get you to becoming a larger association. FICCI CI, of course, are a different league because they've been a voice of various industries. But I'm sure transport industry has the capacity to be a voice because end of the day we are the backbone of a lot of the manufacturing and trading economy.
Abhishek, AITWA has always been talking to the government on policies and changes required in the existing policies. What is the future plans of AITWA from here on?
So there are a lot of plans. There are a lot of initiatives that we are doing. There's work happening. A couple of them are surrounding truck owners or fleet owners. A couple of them are surrounding drivers. Highway Hero program, which we started in 2019, though it took a backseat during COVID. But other initiatives through Highway Heroes did really well in terms of helping drivers. Initiatives in terms of common industry practices or SOP across the industry, something which AITWA is working on. So there are a lot of initiatives that are planned. I think you'll probably hear of them soon.
So Abhishek, finally, with so much happening in the transport industry, around the transport industry, how do you see the future of the transport industry from here on?
I think the future is very bright. If India has to grow even at the current pace, let alone 5 trillion economy whenever it happens, there is enough, or rather more than enough business happening in India for which transport industry has to play a huge role. Let railways come, let EV come, there's enough of business for everybody. So unless and until we're able to handle that business in a proper way, in a way that the customer wants, or in the way that the industry needs, I think there's nothing stopping the transport industry to grow.
Well friends, that was our exclusive interaction with Abhishek Gupta. We will be back with more magic next week. A gentle reminder, please do subscribe to our channel to keep the number of subscribers growing. Until next week, stay safe. Jai Hind. Good morning